Well, Customs and Border Protection officials are investigating the death of an 8-year-old migrant while she was in federal U.S. custody.
It marks the first known death of a migrant child in U.S. border custody under the Biden administration. CBP officials say the girl was pronounced dead at a local hospital after experiencing a, quote, medical emergency inside a Border Patrol station in Harlingen, Texas. The 8-year-old and other family members were being held there after crossing the southern border.
Joining us now is CBS News immigration reporter Camilo Montoyo-Galvez. Camilo, the very first question we all have is how long did it take for this child to get medical attention? When might we learn more about this investigation?
Hi, Lana and Lorraine. This was a very tragic and horrible incident that we were notified of last night, but we don't have a lot of details right now. What we do know is that this 8-year-old girl from an unspecified country was not unaccompanied. She crossed the U.S.-Mexico border with their family, with their parents, and they were all processed by Border Patrol agents in South Texas. After that, the girl had a medical emergency, as you mentioned, and was pronounced dead at a local hospital. Congressional officials have been notified. The Customs and Border Protection Agency is also undertaking an internal investigation. We should also note that this marks the first death of a migrant child in Border Patrol custody since the Trump administration, when you can recall that several minors died in that agency's custody. It is, however, the second death of a migrant child in overall U.S. federal custody in recent weeks. Last week, we reported on the death of a 17-year-old teen from Honduras who died in the custody of the Department of Health and Human Services. That is the agency that houses unaccompanied migrant children.
Well, Camila, let's take a step back for a moment. This comes as U.S. officials report the number of unauthorized entries along the southern border has actually dropped 60% since the record seen before Title 42 expired. Why are border officials not seeing the influx of migrants they expected to see, but actually just the opposite?
That's a critical question, Elaine. Border officials, as you recall, were preparing for as many as 13,000 migrants to enter U.S. border custody on a daily basis after the end of Title 42. In the lead up to the policy change, we did see the numbers spike to 10,000 per day. But as you mentioned, they have since plummeted to about 4,400. And I think there are several reasons for this sharp drop. The first one is that Mexico and Guatemala have deployed military and law enforcement units to their borders to stop U.S.-bound migrants. Authorities in Colombia and Panama have also undertaken similar measures to curtail migrant smuggling along the Darien jungle. That is the route that many migrants undertake to come to the U.S. and to try to cross the U.S.-Mexico border. And then the other factor, I think, that we have to highlight here, Lana and Elaine, is that the U.S. has been increasing regular deportations of migrants and is now implementing the sweeping restriction that disqualifies migrants from asylum if they enter the U.S. without permission after failing to seek protection in a third country like Mexico or Guatemala before coming to the U.S. So migrants deported under this new policy actually face a 5-year banishment from the U.S., as well as potential criminal charges and jail time if they try to re-enter the U.S. These are consequences that Title 42 did not impose on migrants.
Camilo, I also want to ask you about migrants who are being housed in different U.S. cities, because some officials are struggling to address the growing number of migrants. In New York City, for example, officials say room is running out, even as more buses are expected to arrive by the end of the week. What else can you tell us about this situation? What are local governments and the federal government doing?
Well, Lana, this humanitarian crisis has really exposed some divisions within the Democratic Party over immigration. Mayor Eric Adams has been unusually critical of the Biden administration over this issue, saying that New York is not getting the help that it needs from the federal government to house the thousands of migrants who have been arriving to the city on a weekly basis. Adams himself has faced criticism at a local level over a plan to house migrants in school gyms. But he has said, the mayor has said, Lana, that he has to take drastic measures amid a perfect storm. And that storm is formed by dwindling bed space at existing shelters, such as the makeshift shelters at hotels, daily arrivals of migrants upwards in the hundreds in terms of figures. We have obviously the needs of the domestic homeless population in New York City, and then an affordable housing crisis that is plaguing most major U.S. cities. So the federal government right now is reimbursing cities and NGOs and groups who are receiving and helping migrants, but Adams has said that that is not enough. He has called for increased federal support and actions from the White House and Congress, including to more quickly grant asylum seekers work permits so they can legally work in the city and not rely on New York City services. The problem here, Lana and Elaine, is that under federal law, asylum seekers cannot legally work until 180 days after they formally file an asylum application in immigration court. And oftentimes that wait is even longer because of how backlogged the asylum system is. And as you both know, Congress has not addressed this issue in decades, since the 1990s.
All right. Camilo Montoyo Galvez, thank you.